All right, guys, welcome to your new eSprinter. I'm just going to shoot a little video kind of giving you some features and tips that I've come across over my time with Mercedes. So first off, we have the vehicle in question. You'll notice when you receive the keys, there are 4 keys to open the vehicle, so lock and unlock, pretty straightforward. One of the main things that I show people on the outside of the vans when they're picking them up is the fuel access. So on our diesel equipped vans, the fuel access door is this little flap here. But obviously for this van, that's just dead space. So where you're going to be plugging in the van, you learn this pretty quickly, is in the front. So there's a little symbol here, which you press on to pop open the charger. You've got 2 charging ports. So this top section is level 1, which is your household style plug, and level 2, which is what I believe you guys installed at the airport. So that's the one that'll charge you overnight. You plug in the van, it'll be full the next morning. The level 3, that's you're going to find those throughout the province at different spots. That one will charge the van in about 30 to 40 minutes. Too expensive to put at most retail locations, but there are 20 or so of them throughout the province. So if you're traveling with the van, that would be a good way to top up on a longer drive. Oh, as far as the symbols here, when you plug the van in, you'll initially see the orange flashing light as it's establishing a connection with the charger. You will kind of hear a little like electronic handshake happening. Then when you see the pulsing green, that means you're successfully charging. Flow of energy is going into the van. And then when you see solid green, that means the van's full. If you see red, then the first thing I would do is try unplugging and plugging in again, but that means you have a connection error. I have seen it happen, and it usually, it always has been resolved by unplugging and plugging back in. Speaking of unplugging, when you plug in the van and you hear that initial that it's locking it in, that you won't be able to pull the plug out unless you press this button. So it does actually like grab hold of the charger. The idea there is if you were charging publicly and you wanted to lock the van and go to a restaurant or something, somebody can't come along and take your charger. So to unplug, you have to have the van unlocked and press this button, and you'll hear it kind of uncouple, and then you can pull the charger out. As far as the other controls on the outside of the van, so obviously you've got your door slider to access the inside. You'll have all your equipment in here before you take delivery. This van was optioned with a additional door. So you open the door on the inside by pushing down on this little switch here. So you've got 2 sliding doors. And on the back, I'll just show you. The Mercedes logo is only attached to the right-hand door, so you'll see when you open it, it goes with the door. So the only word of caution there is make sure you don't close that door first, or you'll be popping that Mercedes logo off. You've got some little netting, rear access when you're inside the van, and that can be manually locked and unlocked. If you're doing a wide swing of the door, you can unhook this here, and then the door will swing all the way around. This one was optioned with the full kind of doors that lean up against the van. So you just have to unhook that hinge, and it'll auto hook itself back in when you go to close it. Now the big thing that you guys are going to want lessons on is of course the tech. So when you come into the van, you're going to see seat adjustment, window, you've got your grab handle to hop up in. As far as the seats go, so you've got a little lever here for sliding back and forth. You've got a lever here for raising and lowering the back of the seat. And then you've got a knob for actually leaning back the seat. And then the headrests are manually up and down. These guys work just like most manual armrests. So to reset them, you go all the way to the top, and then each click, it'll lock into place. Jump up in here. So I like to work my way sort of left to right when I'm going over the features inside of the vehicle. So on the door, you've got your window controls, your mirror adjustment for the right and left, and then this top button, close this, when the van is running, turn it on here. When the van is running, you have the option to press that button if you want to fold the mirrors in. So, if you were in a tight space or you're worried about them getting knocked off, you can click that button to fold your mirrors in. The button down below here, you get lock and unlock, and this is a button for the heated seat. So you've got heated seats for the driver and the front passenger side there. Most people don't play with these buttons. The parking brake on Mercedes is automatic, so it'll be engaged when you're in park, and then once you put it in drive and you touch the accelerator, it'll just automatically disengage. And then you, if you want to manually override, you would do it with that switch. Likewise with the lights, most people just leave them in auto. This is a fog light, so if it's foggy and you click that, you'll get extra illumination on the front and back. And then you have a slider for the brightness of the gauges. So at night, you can adjust how bright those are. Now, as far as what you're seeing, kind of when you're sitting in the driver's seat, so there's physical gauges on the two sides here. So this is obviously your speed, your charge level, and then this side is basically how you're doing as far as like energy consumption. So when it's in the blue, you're putting power back into the battery. When you're in sort of the gray, you're doing okay as far as how much battery you're using. And when you're in the red, you're basically sacrificing range for power. So, and obviously the max power will show you how much you have access to. The center section, this is a screen. So this can be customized with the buttons on the steering wheel. So you'll see the steering wheel has the same 3 buttons on both sides. The idea there is your left hand you use to control your left screen, and when your right hand is on the wheel, you can use it to control the right screen. So if I wanted to swipe, across the screen, I can do it hands on the wheel. Within this screen, so right now we are in trip data. So if I swipe my thumb across the little OK, you'll see these little gray dots appear on the right, and it's going to show me different options of what I can have on display while I'm driving. So you can go through quite a few options there. There's different categories you can also put in the center. So by clicking on the house, it brings up a menu that I can swipe left or right for different categories. So if I wanted to see, like what radio station I'm listening to, and then swiping becomes change my station. Or if I go into my telephone, it would show if I was on a call, who I was speaking with and for how long. If I go into driver assistance, it'll show me a driver assistance graphic. So it would show, if there was a vehicle right in front of me, how far they are from me. So most people end up choosing something from the trip data. Typically just a big speedometer is the most popular. The other buttons on this side of the steering wheel are your cruise control. So when you're at highway speed, once you're going as fast as you want to go, you'd click on and set to set your speed. And you'll see it'll come up at the top there. If you want to add speed, you just swipe your finger across this little track to add 1 kilometer an hour, or you can click at the top or bottom and it'll do 10 kilometers an hour. So if I'm going 105 and I want to go 115, you just click at the top. Resume and cancel is the same as hitting the brake, and it'll put you in a temporary, like the cruise is still on but not activated, and then off, kind of turns off the system entirely. The buttons on this side, so I've already gone over the top 3. The other one's down here. So you have your phone. So once the phone is paired to the car, if you get a call, you press the up button to pick up the receiver, the down button to hang up the receiver. You've got a slider for the volume. So you slide your finger across that to change the volume. If you want to mute, you click at the bottom. You have a star, which is a favorites section. So within the menu, you'll see there's a little star there that you can go in. But if you click that, it'll just take you to your favorites. So the idea with the favorites section is they put some things in here just by default to get you started. But if you said, I'm never going to be playing with the mobile browser, for example, I can just hold down on that and delete it. And then you can also add your own favorites. So you choose what category of information you want. So the idea is, if you take the time to set this up, then this becomes a handy button, right? You click it and something like the 2 or 3 things you use a lot will come up on the screen there. The other button here is the speech button to tell the car what you want it to do. So in addition to these buttons for controlling the screen, and of course you've probably noticed I've touched the screen, so it is a touch screen. You do have the ability to give the car instructions by clicking this button. So if I click the button...
Hello, I'm Mercedes, your voice assistant. Would you like to know more about what I can do for you?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Whenever you want to talk to me, you can press the push to talk button on the steering wheel or say, "Hey Mercedes, I can help you enter destinations, search for music and use vehicle functions," to name just a few examples. When I'm online, I can do even more for you, like weather forecasts. Just tell me what you need. The animated graphic in the display shows you when I'm listening to you. Here you can see an overview of my functions. Just say help if you would like to see them again later. What can I do for you?
Set the temperature to 18 degrees.
Unfortunately, I can't change the temperature in this vehicle.
All right, well, that's a fail, but you get the idea. So this is a voice assistant. So like she was saying, if you want to use it for navigation or, changing tracks or whatnot, you can also bring it up, as it said, by saying, "Hey Mercedes." So there is a microphone up at the top that'll hear you say that. You kind of have to say it loud and clear, but when you see this little kind of crystalline thing at the top, that means the van has heard you and is listening for instruction. So if I hang up, see, it stops doing that. But if I say, "Hey Mercedes,"
How may I help you?
right, so it comes up. So you don't even have to use the button. You can just say, "Hey Mercedes." When a phone is paired, if you hold that button down, it'll skip the Mercedes assistant and go to your phone. So if it's an Apple phone, you'll be speaking directly to a Siri, and if it's an Android, it would be Alexa. So you just hold that button to tell your phone what you want it to do. So that's the steering wheel controls. There is height adjustment and tilt and telescope, of course. The buttons behind the steering wheel, so you've got the shifter. So right now we are in park. Oh, actually I'm in drive. So if I click the button at the end, it'll put me in park. So to go to drive, you just push down. To go into reverse, you click up, and then park is the little button at the end. If you do sort of a half press, if you're kind of shy with it, that's what puts you into neutral. So you kind of want to be, fully committed to drive or reverse. When you see ready, that means the van is ready to drive. So with these electric vehicles, it can be hard to tell, is it going, is it running, is it not? So ready means you can drive. What else would we need to know? Okay, so because the shifter's over here, on this side you have your lights, so signal lights, your brights, but you also have your wipers. So these little dots are rain sensing. So right now the wipers are technically on, it's just not raining. This is also rain sensing, but a little bit more aggressive. And then if you keep going further, that's on, and then that's on kind of max speed, right? If I'm driving along and it's kind of misting and it isn't picking up the rain, if I click the button at the end just lightly, it'll do a single swipe. And if you firmly press that in, that's what sprays fluid on the front. I won't do that now because the van's clean. Now the little minus sign here and the plus sign, this is something that's very unique to the eSprinter. So when I'm in drive, it's going to start you off in D, which is, it's an eSprinter drive mode. So it does have a bit of extra recuperation. You would find it'll drive a little bit different than a normal vehicle because it's trying to put some energy back into the battery when you're not accelerating. If I want it to drive like a internal combustion car, if I pull the right paddle, D plus is basically Mercedes' best kind of representation of what internal combustion feels like. So you get a little bit of engine braking, but the power delivery and everything is what you'd be used to. But you've got quite a few options. So if I press it again, I get D++. That is sailing mode. So there is no recuperation. There's no drag on the powertrain at all. Like, I mean, if you're on even a 1 degree downhill, it'll just coast forever. Like there's no draw or anything holding you back. The opposite is also true. So if I go back to D+ is the one that drives like your gas car. D is the default, so you're getting a little bit of extra recuperation. You're going to put more energy into the battery, but you also have D-. Now D- is what in the industry is kind of referred to as one pedal driving. So when you're not accelerating, it's going to feel like the van is braking. So as soon as you're off the accelerator, it's going to be pushing you kind of forward in your seat, like somebody's pressing the brake for you. It's not actually pressing the brake, it's just putting maximum power back into the battery with the recuperation system. So if you can get used to driving in D-, that is probably the best as far as like maximizing range. Now Mercedes does have a special drive mode as well that you kind of access it under a hidden way. So you hold the paddle and it'll say D auto. What D-Auto does is it uses navigation data, sensors, cameras, basically everything the van has available to it to change the drive mode depending on the driving circumstance. So to give you an example, if I'm cruising on a back road and it's 80 kilometers an hour and there's nobody in front of me, I'm going to be sailing, right? It's going to just kind of go over those hills with no drag. But then if somebody pulls out of the driveway in front of me, I might feel the van braking for me because it's using the heavy recuperation to slow me down. It knows otherwise I'd be on the brake, but why not get some energy back? If I'm coming up to an intersection and I put my signal light on, it's going to know, okay, he wants to turn here. Let's start braking, and it'll put the recuperation into play. So D-Auto, if you can get used to it, it's a great drive mode because it's doing whatever's best for the scenario that you're using. So yeah, that's your drive modes. The other thing you can do that affects your range is you've got this button here. So when you start the van, it's going to start in comfort mode, which is a little C. Comfort mode is basically maximum comfort, maximum horsepower, minimum range. Not minimum, but the least of the three options. So if I click this button, you'll see it goes into eco mode. A little E. So eco mode will restrict the van's power a little bit. It'll restrict the cooling of the air conditioning a little bit. You're still going to be comfortable and cool, but it's going to give you a little bit more range because I'm giving up a little bit of power and a little bit of like kind of HVAC. And then if I go max range, it's just doing that to the ultimate level. So like you're kind of throttling the power, throttling the heating and air conditioning, and saying, I want to get the most out of this charge. So you guys can determine which drive mode you want to use. Like if it's just being driven around the airport, you probably will just use it in comfort. You'll have the ability to charge whenever you want. But if you're doing a longer road trip and you're concerned about, are we going to make it to the next station? That's a great way to buy yourself a little bit more range. Now the other buttons we've got kind of going on here. Well, actually, I'll show you the top of the dash. You have 3 storage compartments. Now, this one has 3 USB-C chargers. This one here is if you want to do wired CarPlay or Android Auto. It does have wireless, so as soon as you pair your phone, it'll start wireless. And this is a wireless charging pad. So this little kind of grippy section, if you put your phone face up on that, as long as it supports wireless charging, it will start to charge. You've got a little flap there for the rearview mirror. I'm going to save the screen for last because that's like where a lot of what you're interacting with the van happens. The main menu items, so the main things you would use while you're driving the van, they do have hotkeys down here. So navigation, radio, telephone. So if I click any of these, it'll go into that feature. This one is your parking camera. So if you want to bring those up when you're not in reverse, you just click that button. You've got a home and a back button, which is the same as this home and back. So if I want to get back to the home screen, and then this will mute your volume, and if you press it and hold it, it'll turn the screen off. So if you're doing a long night drive and you didn't want the screen to be lit up. This one is your settings, so that's a menu that's over on the far right. And then this is your track change. So if you're listening to music and you want to change the track, if you click that button, it pops up at the bottom and I can click to the next, in this case, station, or if I'm streaming music, or you can just swipe your finger across and you'll see it'll go between tracks. So that's what that button's for. Volume control, you've got one for the passenger, like the driver has their own, but this one passenger can control. Down below we have our heating and air conditioning controls. So you set your temperature, set your fan speed, air conditioning on or off, air direction, so where do you want the air blowing. You've got max defrost for the front and rear. You've got a heated windshield, so it's, if you look closely, I don't know if I could capture it on film, but there is a bunch of little wires through the whole windshield. So if you click that, the windshield will melt very fast in the winter. And then you've got a 4-way flasher button. So hopefully you never need that, but it's there. So now we'll get into the screen, because that's kind of where, like I say, a lot of what you're going to interact with happens. So like this home button and this home button, there is a home button. So if I go into a menu and I'm into a sub menu and I just want to get back, if I click the house, it takes me back to the home screen. The little picture up here, this is your driver profile. So we'll activate the Mercedes Me, and then you'll be able to add drivers. So the idea with the driver profile is if I like you know, certain radio stations are in my favorites and I've got a screen that I like to see here, it'll remember that. So similar to like the memory seat in a car, it'll remember my digital preferences, and you know, I can bring up my profile and it'll have my phone and all that. The star I already went through. Search, actually the owner's manual is in this screen, so anything you search in here, like it'll search navigation, it'll search radio stations, but it'll also search the owner's manual. So if you had a question about the van, you could type it in there and it should give you the information. The first tab, so this eSprinter one, this is going to show my max charge, so you can set the van to charge to different maximums. I mean, people who are concerned about battery life, they do say 80%. The van has a lot easier time topping out at 80 than it does 100. Just like if you're, you know, filling a cup and you're trying not to spill, you got to slow down when you get close to like 90, 95%. The van's the same way. So at 80%, it'll fill up fairly quickly. At 100%, it's gonna, that last 20% will take, you know, more as a percentage of how long it takes to charge. Right now it's set on the standard charging program. You can create different charging programs, so if you wanted a different program for like home or work, different locations. If eco charging is turned on, then it will charge slower, but it's better for the grid, I guess, for the world. The DC fast charging, it just gives you a note about that it's max 30 kilometers. And then you can edit your departure time. So this is pre-entry climate control. You'd see it's also accessible up here at the top. So if we create a weekly profile, or if I go edit departure time, so I could say, you know, we start our day at 7:45 in the morning, right? So right now it's set to just do that once, so it would be tomorrow, activated for departure time at 7:45. But if I go weekly profile and I go add new time, I could say, okay, on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7:45, that's when we go, right? So then that is saved now in your weekly profile. So the van will be ready to go at that time. It'll be warm inside, the battery will be warmed up, you'll get the most range out of the van. So as long as you take the time to set that up, it is a nice way to kind of have the van greet you in the morning or in the afternoon or evening, whenever you're using it. The pre-entry climate control on the Mercedes passenger vehicles, like not the commercial vehicles, it'll also access pre-entry climate control by clicking the unlock button. I'm not sure if that's the case with the eSprinter, so you might try it if you haven't set up a profile and you're about to go to the van, say in 10 or 15 minutes, click the unlock button, and it should, if it works like the Mercedes vehicles, it'll be warm when you get in the van in the winter, cool in the summer. The next tab, so we have navigation. If we click the little red icon, brings up our map, and I can pinch to zoom. I can change the orientation, so I can go 2D, top down, north facing, so north is always up. I can put in a destination, so enter a route. If I click the buttons down below, so the flag would be just skipping straight to the destination entry screen. And the other one, the house, the first time you click it, it'll say, do you want to set a home address? So that you can set as, I guess, the airport. And then if you're out and about and you need navigation home, click that, it'll navigate you home. Phone, so this is where you would go in and connect devices. You can have 2 active at a time. You can have, I think, 20 saved in the car, but 2 can be active, so the driver and front passenger can both receive calls through the car. If I want to toggle between devices, that's what this little Bluetooth symbol, so that would allow you to choose like whose music you're going to listen to while you're driving. And once a phone is paired, this becomes like your dial pad. This becomes speak to, like, basically to give the car instructions for text messaging and so on. Radio and media are what you would listen to while you're driving. So radio, pretty self-explanatory. We all know how terrestrial radio works. If there's a station that you like and you want to save it as a favorite, you click on that little star and you see it threw it into my favorites. If I want to unfavorite it, I just click on the star again and it boots it out of there. You do have a little bit of audio control, so you can click this little cog and you can, let's see, equalizer, you've got balance control for left and right, so on. That'll also come up if you're playing with the volume. that little cog will get you there as well if you click on that. Media is if you want to play music or podcasts or audiobooks from your phone. So if a phone is paired, you click media, it'll start playing whatever the last thing that was playing from the phone. You also can use a USB stick. So if you fill one of those data sticks with music and you've got it plugged in like into one of those ports at the top, or there is also a port down here, then it'll stream music from the USB stick. Now the MB apps, these are where you can go in. We're going to activate the Mercedes Me, but you can use this screen to surf the internet. It would use your mobile data, but if you click that, it would basically bring up a web browser that you can plug into. You've got info, which is a tab where the vehicle is showing like basically information that it has available. It'll show you like, you know, I've got my foot 28% on the brake right now. The van is at a 1 degree angle and a 1 degree kind of tilted backwards. Devices, this, if a phone is paired, will become your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay button, and it'll also add a second one up here. This one becomes kind of redundant because it's way over to the right in the menu. Most people just use the little one that appears right there. And then settings, this is where you go in and customize all the different systems that the van has available that you can kind of play with. So each of these tabs you'd want to go through and just make sure that like the things are on. Everything by default will be turned on, like for example active brake assist, and they're set to kind of the medium. So if I said early, then the van would step in and help me brake more quickly than if I have it set to medium versus late. If I go under assistance, attention assist is turned on, so the van will warn if somebody's seeming like they're drowsy behind the wheel. Vehicle settings, so I've got like, if I'm trailering, I can select what type of trailer I'm pulling. Open, close, so when I'm getting in and out of the van, do I want the doors to lock automatically when I start rolling? Do I want the van to honk when I lock it? So these are all things that you guys can decide what sensitivity level you want for all the safety systems and so on. Dynamic select is if you want to have it request that you switch to a certain drive mode at the start of the van. Light settings would just be like, how long do you want the lights to stay on when you get out of the van? Do you want the interior lights to come on and stay on when you get in? And then system, this is where you would go in and you can change some of the different tones for things. You can change, like, you know, if you were taking the van down to the States, for example, I could go under display and I could say, you know, I want it to be miles per hour. So you've got, you know, some customizations here, voice, language, things like that. The vehicle does have, similar to modern smartphones, does have software updates that will pop up every now and then. Activate that. So it would come up on the screen and say a software update is available now. Do you want to download it? It usually takes about 10 minutes or so. The screen will shut off and then it'll come back with the latest version. So just so you know, that is a thing. Where I went down here, I'll show you. So you do have USB-C charging port here as well as a 12 volt, and there's a 115 volt plug as well. So you guys optioned it with a house style plug. So you get lots of charging options between those and the three up there. And there is another 12 volt in the bottom of the driver's seat base. And that, I believe, is about it for the controls. The only other thing, I mean, the light controls, so you've got reading lights. It does have the interior lighting package, so that'll light up the lights in the back if you click the back one. Me will call roadside. So during the full term that you guys are under warranty, if you click that button, an actual person will come through the speakers and say, you know, how can I help you? So if you run out of fuel, well, I guess in the case of an eSprinter, run out of charge, get a flat tire, you know, any of those roadside emergencies where you would need a tow, like say the van broke down and you needed to get it to the dealership, you press that button and it's all going to be covered by Mercedes. There is some storage space up at the top here. There's lots of storage space in these vans. There's cubbies there. There's, you know, the 3 o'clock on the top. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, you know how to reach me, and otherwise, I think you're really going to enjoy it.